Okay, let's start the deep dive. Today, we're cutting through some of the noise and diving deep into a therapy that's, well, it's quietly gaining a lot of mainstream attention. You're
Mhm.
seeing it pop up everywhere. Neighborhood wellness centers, of course, but also major hospitals in the US and the UK. We're talking about Reiki.
That's right. And for anyone who isn't familiar, Reiki, or it's pronounced Arwei-ki in Japanese, though you'll often hear Reiki in the West, it means universal life energy.
Reiki.
Exactly. It's a structured Japanese form of energy healing, and the whole point is to stimulate the body's own natural self-healing and, get its energy flow back in balance.
We've pulled together a really fascinating stack of sources for you. They span from these deeply philosophical texts on spiritual lineage all the way to some pretty rigorous systematic clinical reviews.
And our mission today is pretty simple. We want to give you a concise, but also a really thorough understanding of the practice. We're going to unpack the history, the core
Their
principles.
spiritual foundation.
Right. And then the more esoteric tools that practitioners use, like the sacred symbols. And maybe most importantly, we're going to look directly at what the current science says about its impact on mental health.
This feels like a really complex topic. It's sitting right at that intersection of, spiritual philosophy and modern clinical practice. Sounds like quite a journey.
It is.
Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with the fundamental concepts and the history. What exactly is this core concept of energy?
At its foundation, everything, and I mean everything, revolves around ki.
Key.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's this non-physical vitality that just flows through all living things. If you've ever heard of qi in Chinese traditions or prana in yoga philosophy,
You're talking about the same thing.
you're talking about the exact same essential life force.
And the sources really emphasize this isn't some new idea. It's a concept that spans cultures and millennia. I even saw a parallel to how some Western traditions might call it the Holy Spirit.
Precisely. It's the breath of life itself. And the core belief in Reiki is that when a person's keys is low, they're just more prone to sickness, to distress.
And that includes mental illness, not just physical stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Mental illness, emotional blocks, addiction. So the whole purpose of a Reiki treatment is to bring that energy level high again, clear out the blockages, and just let the body's natural healing intelligence take over.
So if this energy has always been around, where does the structured system of Reiki come from?
Well, the system we're talking about today, Usui Reiki Ryoho, was developed, or as practitioners often put it, rediscovered by Dr. Mikao Usui in Japan. This was back in the late 19th, early 20th century.
And the history here is important, right? It explains how it spread across the globe.
Absolutely. The lineage is key.
Mhm.
So Dr. Usui taught Dr. Chujiro Hayashi, and he set up a clinic, refined the hand positions we still use.
Mm.
Then Dr. Hayashi taught Hawayo Takata.
She was the one who brought it to the U.S.
She was instrumental. She brought the practice to the United States in 1970. And that was really the start of its journey into global practice. It went from this localized Japanese healing art to a worldwide therapy.
Beyond the hands-on energy work, the sources make it clear that Reiki is, at its heart, a spiritual practice. And this brings us to the 5 principles, or the Gokai.
These principles really are the spiritual medicine of the practice. They're just 5 simple, universal spiritual truths, and they're deliberately not tied to any one religion or dogma. You're meant to recite them daily, morning, and evening.
What I love about this part is how practical it is. Every principle starts with the phrase, just for today.
Mm-hmm.
And that just instantly makes it manageable. It's not be perfect for the rest of your life. It's just for the next 24 hours.
That daily present moment focus is what creates real change. So let's look at them. The first is, just for today, do not anger.
And the sources go deep here. They say anger isn't just an emotion, it's an energy transfer. When you get consumed by anger, you're basically letting whatever you're angry at steal your vital energy.
Exactly. It's about keeping control over your own energy field. And the second one is just as important. Just for today, do not worry. Worry is seen as this huge barrier to healing because it creates stress, anxiety, and that physically blocks the flow of ki.
Okay, so we move from emotional discipline to something more proactive. The third is be grateful.
Yeah, and this is seen as a moral stance. Gratitude aligns your energy with humility, with abundance. It shifts your focus from what you lack to what you have.
The fourth one, work diligently, sounds simple, but it's more than just being a good employee.
Much more. It's about dedicating yourself to your honest purpose and, critically, to karma purification. Being mindful and intentional in everything you do.
And the last one is just beautiful. Be kind to all living things.
It's the foundation of compassion. And the idea is that just authentically contemplating these 5 precepts is in itself a form of profound spiritual medicine that automatically raises your ki.
That sets a wonderful ethical blueprint. So now let's move from that spiritual blueprint to the physical reality. What should someone expect when they walk into a Reiki session?
It's a very non-invasive experience. You'll typically lie down on a therapy bed or maybe sit in a chair and you're fully clothed. A session can run anywhere from, say, 30 minutes to an hour and a half.
And the contact is very light, right? Or sometimes no touch at all. It's not a massage.
That is a key distinction.
Yeah.
No pressure, no kneading. The practitioner places their hands either directly on the body with a very light touch or just slightly above it in the person's biofield.
And because of that, safety and boundaries must be critical.
Oh, absolutely. Our source materials are very clear about this. There are certain areas that should never be touched. Breasts, reproductive areas, the bottom, top of the thighs, and the tongue.
So the client is really in control.
Completely. If you're uncomfortable with contact on, say, your feet or your throat, you just ask for non-contact. The practitioner will hold their hands slightly away and channel the energy without touching.
What about the environment? I know for some people with sensitivities, a calming space can actually be a bit triggering.
That's a great point. A good practitioner must check with the client first. They need to ask about music. Maybe you prefer silence. They have to check about scents, like candles or sage, especially if you have asthma. Even checking if the blankets are okay for someone with eczema.
So, assuming we have that safe, relaxed environment, what might a person actually feel during the session?
It varies so widely. Most people report a state of deep relaxation. Some even fall asleep. Physically, you might feel temperature changes, like intense heat from the practitioner's hands, or maybe a cool breeze, tingling.
And emotionally?
Emotionally, a sense of profound peace is very common. It's also normal to have little physical twitches in your hands or feet as energy starts moving. And sometimes people cry.
But not in a sad way.
Usually not. It's seen as a safe, cathartic release of old, blocked emotions.
For our listeners who might be looking for a practitioner, it probably helps to understand the training levels. It's not like anyone can just hang up a shingle.
Not at all. There's a structure. Level 1 is focused almost entirely on self-healing. You learn the basics, and then you do a 21-day practice on yourself. You're generally not authorized to treat the public.
Okay, and then level 2 is when you can go professional.
Yes. After you qualify for level 2, you can set up as a professional practitioner. You can do sessions in person. You can do them remotely. But you have to have insurance and follow all the local laws. You still can't teach, though.
And that's where the master level comes in.
Right. Level 3. Practitioners usually get there after a minimum of 1 to 3 years of practice. That's when you get the final attunements and you're authorized to teach. And at that level, you are expected to know your entire Usui Reiki lineage right back to the founder.
And here's where it gets really interesting. At level 2, practitioners are initiated into using sacred symbols. Now, for someone coming from a purely scientific view, drawing symbols to influence energy, it sounds like magic. How do the sources explain this?
The essential idea is that these symbols aren't magical drawings in themselves. They're esoteric keys. They're tools that focus and concentrate the practitioner's intention.
Ah, so intention is the active ingredient.
Intention is and always will be the key ingredient. The symbols just give that intention a structure and a lot more power.
Let's start with the first one, the power symbol, Choku-rei, or CKR.
This one is often translated as placing all the powers of the universe here. It's like a massive amplifier, or as you said, a light switch. It just instantly activates and boosts the flow of energy wherever you apply it.
So what would you use it for?
It's incredibly versatile. You can use it to cleanse a person, to purify a room, to charge objects. You could say, draw it over your chakras before bed for protection, or apply it to an area of pain for a few minutes to really intensify the healing. There's even a reverse choku-rei to specifically flesh out stagnant energy.
Okay, now for the one that bends the rules of physics. The distance symbol, Hansha Seshonen.
This symbol it's a profound philosophical concept in an image. Its function is literally to transcend time and space. It allows a practitioner to send energy to anyone, anywhere, or even to events in the past or the future.
Healing the past, that's a fascinating idea. How does that work? You can't change what happened.
No, you can't. And that's a crucial clarification. The goal isn't to change history. The practitioner visualizes the past trauma and sends light to heal the wound at its root. It's about healing the event's present emotional and energetic consequences, freeing the person from the current weight of it.
And what about the future? How do you send Reiki to an event that hasn't happened yet?
That's what the sources call a Reiki project. The practitioner writes down a goal like, "My interview goes smoothly," and then uses the distance symbol to seal that intention, empowering the future event for the person's highest good.
I notice that practitioners don't seem to use these symbols in isolation. There's often a sequence.
Absolutely. One of the most important sequences combines the power of CKR with a Seihiki, which is the emotional healing symbol. The Seihiki works specifically to harmonize and balance the emotional body.
So you use the power symbol to amplify the energy, the emotional symbol to stabilize the person, and then the distance symbol to send it.
Precisely. That specific sequence gives you the most powerful access to the universal life force energy.
And finally, the master symbol.
That's the Daikomayo, or DKM, learned at level 3. It translates to great bright light. It's the most sacred because it's used to heal directly at the soul or spiritual level. And the belief is that if you heal the soul, that healing automatically cascades down through the mental and physical levels.
Which brings us to where the esoteric meets the clinical, because despite all this, Reiki is now a complementary therapy in a lot of hospitals and cancer centers.
It's a huge shift. And in those settings, it's often provided for free, maybe in 10-minute sessions, to help patients with anxiety, pain, nausea, all alongside their conventional medical care.
But when we look at the research, we have to admit there's a tension here. The clinical world wants randomized placebo-controlled trials, but the very mechanism of Reiki, this idea of a biofield, is seen by some in conventional science as, well, not fitting the current paradigm.
That tension is very real. These subtle energies aren't easy to measure with standard equipment, so some critics just dismiss it as pseudoscience. But researchers are actively looking for the right technology. For instance, they're looking at devices called squeedides.
Wait, what's a squeed eye?
It stands for Superconducting Quantum Interference Device. Think of it as an incredibly sensitive magnetic detector. Physicists use them to measure extremely weak magnetic fields.
So the hope is that this key energy might be a very, very subtle magnetic field.
That's the theory. If it is, a squeed eye might eventually be sensitive enough to detect it, which would provide that concrete link between the subtle energy concept and physical reality.
That's helpful context. So while the mechanism is still being explored, we have to focus on the outcomes from the clinical trials. What does the latest systematic review tell us?
Okay, so the central crucial takeaway is this. The evidence suggests Reiki consistently shows a therapeutic effect over placebo for some mental health symptoms. And the key is, particularly when those symptoms are severe.
That's a huge distinction. The effect changes based on how severe the symptoms are.
It does. This isn't a cure-all, and it's not necessarily better than just, a nice chat for someone having an average day. But when you use validated psychological scales, the assessment found high evidence for clinically relevant levels of stress and depression, and moderate to high evidence for clinically relevant anxiety.
So for people who are actually struggling with clinical levels of distress, Reiki provides a real measurable benefit that's more than just a placebo effect.
Exactly. And on the flip side, the evidence dropped to low for just normal levels of anxiety and depression. So in that subclinical range, it's not really more effective than a placebo.
So the bottom line from the review is that the evidence supports using Reiki as a complementary treatment alongside psychotherapy for patients with depression, stress, and anxiety.
That's the summary. And importantly, they found 0 reported adverse effects in any of the studies. So it suggests that even if you don't fully get the mechanism, it's a safe, non-invasive thing to add to a treatment plan.
And that brings us to the end of our dive. We've gone from the simple wisdom of the 5 principles, that daily spiritual guide, and the concept of ki, all the way through the session protocols and that powerful symbolic toolkit.
And we landed right on the emerging scientific data. And if you connect it all, the sources point to this fascinating paradox. Conventional science struggles to document the mechanism, but the clinical studies show a consistent, positive therapeutic effect, especially for people with severe symptoms.
Which leaves a really important question for you, the listener, to think about. If a therapy is non-invasive, has no reported side effects, and consistently provides measurable relief beyond placebo for things like clinical stress and depression, what's more valuable?
Understanding the scientific mechanism behind it, or recognizing the demonstrable benefit it provides to people who are suffering, that choice of where you place your trust in, the measured result or the fully explained mechanism, is ultimately what you get to decide.
A wonderful thought to mull over. We encourage you to just observe the impact of adopting a mindset like the Just for Today principles on your own energy this week. Until next time.